Good evening, everyone. How are you doing tonight? I'm Z Yasso, and today I'm going to talk about talk you through the fun of fall-through caching. Fall-through caching is when an object doesn't exist in a cache; it sort of falls through to the source. Today I'm going to show you how I do this with Stable Diffusion to make a placeholder avatar generator like good old Gravatar. The general idea of fall-through caching is really simple, like this little flowchart. We use the bucket as a cache because these are expensive to generate, and there's a potentially infinite number of inputs in Stable Diffusion. If the object already exists in the cache, then we can just serve it directly. But if not, then you can generate it and return it so that Tigris caches it forever. Asterisk. That's really it, but you know, the devil's in the details, and oh boy, are there a lot of details here. The heinous crime that we're doing here is that we're using this implementing Tigris' shadow bucket feature. Normally, a shadow bucket allows you to set up a bucket so that you can have it only fetch objects on demand, so you don't have the giant evacuating AWS bill. And this is really useful when you're trying to move over to Tigris, because who wants to pay for moving everything over all at once? However, there's no reason that you have to actually use an S3 compatible storage provider here. APIs are the lies we tell ourselves to sleep at night. You can just make your own server implement the S3 get object call, and then it should just work, right? So I did that. And shockingly, it works really well. There was some annoyances getting request signing working, but for an example, you don't need authentication. It works right now, and I swear I'll give you a demo. But first, we have a surreal diagram. To make things easier to understand, I formatted all of the infrastructure involved in the standard 3-tier web app format. This usually breaks up an application as 3 basic things: routing, compute, and storage. In this case, we're treating Tigris as a routing and caching layer that will only access the compute layer if it needs to. The compute layer is an S3 API-compatible server that generates new images based on taking the MD5 sum it's given and turning that into a Stable Diffusion prompt, getting the results, returning it to Tigris, it gets cached and sent back to the user. And lastly, the really absurd part is that we're treating Stable Diffusion as a database. This is going to sound really strange, but in terms of architecting any application with large language models, I find it's helpful to model the large language model as the database layer. And Stable Diffusion is technically deterministic if you just don't set the non-determinism flags like I did. So now for the live demo. Get out your phones and get rickrolled. No, I'm kidding. I'm not rickrolling you. But if you go to there, you'll get a text box to put text in, and a GPU will render it, and everybody's sharing the same GPU, so it may take a hot minute. Raise your hand if it works for you, and raise both hands if it doesn't. Oh, I just got a notification that the GPU's on fire. Cool. Let's hope people in Chicago can handle that. Either way, that's about it. I use Tigris as a cache, and if there's a cache miss, it falls through the Stable Diffusion. The main reason that this works is that APIs are AP lies. As long as a sheep quacks loud enough, it's a duck as far as Tigris cares. And with that, I've been Z Yasso. I am the senior techno-philosopher at Fly.io, and I hope you found this interesting. I have a link to the code behind the demo and the QR code on screen, as well as the description if you're watching this online. I've also made a write-up on my blog in case you like reading snarky and interesting technical writing. Ask me for a link. I have stickers. Have a good evening.